Our guest says that Canada and the US need each other when it comes to critical minerals and metals in general. So there would be negative implications of US tariffs on both the economy and potentially for US national security. We're joined by David Anonychuk, Global Vice President of Metallurgy Consulting at SGS. It's great to see you.
Great. It's great to be back, Andy.
Just remind us how important Canada is in terms of supplying metals and minerals to the United States.
Yeah, I mean, we are definitely intertwined when it comes to, like I said, all this cross-border trade. And in fact, it's both ways. And if we look at a lot of the big ticket items, even in 2023, the U.S. imported, it was about 47 billion U.S. Of commodities, like I said, going into the United States. And if we look at just the critical minerals aspect, which is very topical today because everyone is talking about critical minerals.
Sure.
The top items were aluminum, nickel, potash, copper. And Canada, like I said, was the leading exporter into the United States, with China, sort of following China and closely with, Mexico following that. But it shows how the importance of how Canada is intertwined in the business. If we look at which industries is the most interconnected, it's the automotive, because it goes directly into that U.S. manufacturing base.
Aluminum alone, is America needs our aluminum. There's no short-term way of substituting for that, it appears.
Well, when you look at any of the statistics, where it's aluminum, nickel, copper, and even some of the other ones, even zinc and uranium and others, Canada is the leading importer. There's no other country that comes close to what we do. And like I said, there's that reliancy. And the reason is, look at what the U.S. is saying, what's important. They're saying that their supply chain is important. They're saying it's the economic aspects are very important. So think of all the just-in-time deliveries.
Oh, yeah.
Think of all the financing. Think of all the contracts. It only takes, of this like I said, integrated supply chain, it only takes maybe 2 to 4 days. If you put something on a truck, you're getting it to its final destination. You're minimizing the inventory. So that makes this supply chain, like I said, extremely important, valuable. And, I don't think anyone on both sides of the border wants to see any disruption from that point of view.
And we had, under the previous administration, the Biden administration, we had the Pentagon putting money into some Canadian mining companies to help secure the supply of minerals.
Yeah, I mean, whether it was under the IRA or whether it's the Defense Production Act, Canada was viewed as a strategic partner. We know that, look what's happened. We've had the federal government, we've had all the premiers, and we've had every single major mining company descend on Washington, D.C., not just once, but multiple times, because of the importance of saying, here's the value that Canada provides. That is clear. The U.S. Department of State, the U.S. Department of Defense clearly understands the value and the risk without Canada how it could impact the United States, because that means also think about the defense side, right? We know that the U.S. administration has said defense is critical. We've had different companies. So the Aerospace Industry Association put out a brief, and they said, we looked at the top 12 commodities that are at the most risk to our American supply chain. And what they said is 10 of those 12, we need to import. More than 50% of that is imported from other sources, and Canada is de facto the best partner. We had another paper from CSIS, an American think tank that just wrote a brief a few days ago. They put out a piece to say, we looked at all the policy papers from the defense side, and they said that the top 5 risks to the United States of the things that we don't produce, and we are reliant on other countries, and Canada, again, is the one that produces it was gallium, it was niobium, it was rare earths, cobalt, and tungsten. These are the top 5 things we need from Canada. Just look at some of the examples. Even in Tech Resources produces germanium.
Right.
We've heard what has China done recently?
It's restrictions.
They put
exports.
restrictions, germanium, gallium, tellurium.
Yeah.
Well, Tech produces germanium.
Right, and it's smelter in BC.
And the majority of it goes into the United States. Rio Tinto produces tellurium. They send to a refinery, 5N in Montreal. And again, that enters the United States. Neo Performance Materials In Ontario, they recycle and refine high purity gallium. And again, that enters the United States. Those are high value strategic commodities of high importance. And again, like I said, behind the scenes, there is many important discussions happening that maybe the industry isn't aware of. But the US is absolutely reliant and understands the true value of what Canada provides.
And aluminum, a major, very important for aerospace, very important for the auto industry, and Canada is the dominant supplier into the US.
Absolutely. It's probably one of the largest ticket items in terms of what's ranked within that critical mineral list. Like I said, iron and steel and gold are actually also large commodities, but in terms of critical minerals, aluminum is actually, by default, the largest in terms of what Canada exports into the United States. But these are, like I said, these are all just-in-time delivered. These are decades of integration, and like I said, nobody wants to see that change.
There's aluminum right now, the up 20% in the past year, because of course this could well cause a jump of the price of aluminum in the US market.
And like I said, that's why there's so many discussions. Like I said, every single major mining company has put itself in Washington, D.C. They've passed all these messages of how strategic it is, because like I said, I don't think anyone wants any disruptions. And that's why, like I said, from all those government policy papers, it is super clear that there is a reliance on Canada because they just don't have that downstream processing. And don't forget, on the automotive sector, especially related to aluminum, there are many parts that cross the border multiple times. Right? And like I said, that's why when you go back to the free trade side of things, that's another important aspect of opening up and like I said, the benefit of these partners working together.
It's interesting. I mean, potash is a salt, not a metal, but that's a vast commodity that we sell into the States. And apparently some Republican politicians with rural constituencies are worried about that.
No, absolutely. Most of the potash goes to the fertilizer industry, which is absolutely key for those American farmers. And so we have heard from some of the U.S. governors in those Republican states to point that out, that there is a reliance on those imports or those imports from Canada.
It's interesting. I mean, America used to be the arsenal of democracy, the workshop of the world, but they, like a lot of other Western countries, we've let our industrial base run down, and they can't even process nickel, apparently.
Well, there are no nickel refineries in the United States.
Wow.
You know, like I said, that's a big topic. And we already know in Canada with both Glencore and Vale Base Metals, the significant producers out of that, you know, Sudbury base, as well as Newfoundland. And but this, you know, like I said, the reality is there just are no nickel refineries. They are dependent on that export from Canada. And it's the same if we think about copper. 10 years ago, I used to work for Glencore. I used to do all the copper sales globally. And that refinery in Montreal, CCR refinery, it's about 20% of the US imports. We are that closest neighbor. It makes it economical, efficient. And that's what the US is looking for today.
We'd better jump. Thanks very much indeed. It's great to see you, David.
Great, thank you.